So good day, everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another Power BI section brought to you by UrBizEdge. So for today's topic, we'll be having my process in delivering an awesome dashboard or report. And our special guest for today is Jocelyn Rivera. So this section was brought in collaboration between Enterprise DNA and UrBizEdge. So as most of us know, Enterprise DNA, their main aim is what? Powering Power BI users to change the world. They're also a data analyst company also. You can also check them out by going to the profile Enterprise DNA. And they're also popular on LinkedIn. You can also check them out on LinkedIn also. And also this session is possible by UrBizEdge. So I'll just give a quick introduction about UrBizEdge. So UrBizEdge is a registered Microsoft Excel consultant, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analysis, and enterprise firm solution firm in Nigeria. We also specialize in helping business and all value professionals be on top of the business data. We also develop some Nigerian market tools such as Nigerian Finance Market Analysis tool, which can be found in Microsoft Office Store, and also the Nigerian Stock Analysis Dashboard. And also, as you all know, we're also a training company here in Lagos, Nigeria. So this is our calendar for our upcoming training. So on the 9th of August, we'll be having Python for data analysis. Also on the 12th of August, we'll be having big data analysis, Power Query, Power Pivot, and VBA. That's for Visual Basic Application. For some of you that be interested in Visual Basic Application. On the 18th of August, we'll be having Business Intelligence and Dashboard using Microsoft Power BI. So I'll give you a profile of our special guest, Rivera. So she's a business intelligence analyst with a strong skill in interpreting and analyzing data, extensive knowledge of data visualization using a couple of BI tools such as Power BI, Tableau, and also Excel. She's also a certified Scrum Master, also a Microsoft certified data analyst. She has worked with various cross-platform, cross-functional, and multicultural teams across different countries, especially APAC, Europe, and the Middle East. She has trained over 300 users on how to use Power BI because aiming to become self-service reporting and beneficial for everyone. She's a team player and also has led and managed Scrum team for years, including developers such as managers and also trainees and also interns. So with no further ado, I'll hand over the session to Josephine. So Josephine, I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Temadayo. I think your voice is breaking. Yeah, but it's okay.
Sorry.
No worries. It's okay. Hello, everyone. I think Temadayo did a good job in introducing myself, but since her voice is breaking, I might have to redo it again. So let me just share my screen first. No worries. No worries. Okay, let me just share my screen. Hopefully, I'm able to do so. Hold on. Okay, there you go. Okay, let me know if you're able to see my screen. Temadayo, all good?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay,
Visible.
perfect. Okay, so before anything else, I do want to introduce myself. I am Jocelyn. I do have 15 years of experience, work experience. No need to calculate how old I am. Okay, so I'm old, but anyways, I do have 9 years of experience as a business intelligence analyst. The rest of my experience is mostly in IT as well as a business analyst, as an IT help desk, and I was a call center agent as well. I started my career as a call center agent. I did work in 4 different types of industry. So by the way, this is a resume dashboard that I created in Power BI. I do want to present this so that at least to encourage you if you are someone that is leaning towards the data analytics, something that you might want to create for your portfolio as well. So anyways, 4 different types of industry. I've worked with real estate, tourism, consumer goods, and also technology or IT. A couple of experience as well with the following tools and skills. I'm not gonna go through all of them. I'm currently residing in Singapore. I've been here for almost, actually not 9 years, almost 10 years now, going on 10 years, okay? But before that, I was actually working in the Philippines. I'm born and raised in the Philippines. I'm Filipino, by the way, okay? For any of my works, if you are curious on any of my, visualization, Power BI, dashboards. I do have a portfolio in NoviPro if you want to look, or follow me on LinkedIn. I do have my website in there as well. Okay, so that's me. So for this session, we do want to discuss, okay, before that, we do want to discuss business, my process when it comes of delivering a dashboard of or a report. But before that, I do want to just let you know what is a business intelligence analyst like me do when it comes to work. Okay, so here's here's a view of what I actually do when it comes to work. Okay, so I did include here what my friends think I do, what my mom thinks I do. My mom thinks that I can fix any problem with my PC. What my neighbor thinks I do, I think they think that I'm a hacker or something. I'm not sure. And then what I actually do. So I think the common misconception when it comes to business intelligence analyst or a analyst, so you can interchange between the two roles, to be honest, that we are just, creating dashboards or we're just creating reports. But in reality, there are so much more that happens back end that not much people actually know of. So here just a sample of what my normal typical work, work tasks that I do. Okay, so I'm going through a couple of them during this session because this session is going to be more focused on, report and dashboard development, not including, if there is a request when it comes to a new data set, new data source, like data migration, data integration, because though those things is a totally different process and those things takes more time and more effort. So that part we're not going to discuss during the session, but it's more on if the data set or if the data source is ready for consumption or for report to be built on top of them, what is the process that I do. Okay, so that will be the focus of this session itself. Take note as well, I do want to have a disclaimer as well that this is all based on my experience, what works for me. It's not like something that I just came up with for a couple of days or something. So this is an ongoing process. So it's still ever evolving. It depends on which company I go to, what team I'm working on. So for me, this process might change company to company, but I would say this would be the base of the process that I will be doing as a BI analyst. Okay, so let's proceed. So there is typically there is going to be like an 8 step for me when it comes to, delivering a dashboard or a report. So it starts with the requirement analysis and then finishes on publishing and monitoring. Okay, so it's the whole 8 process itself. So we're gonna go through one item at a time. So if you do have questions, just send it in the chat box. Okay, so and then Tebedai will inform me if in case there are more questions, and then we can stop and then I can answer some of the questions first before we even finish the session. Okay, so it depends on how many questions we received. Okay, so the first one is requirement analysis. Okay, so when it comes to requirement analysis, for me, there are different types of requests that I usually receive. So the analysis part depends on, what type of request I will receive from the user. Okay. These are the most common ones that I usually receive from the users. Okay. When I say users, for me, I do set like a standard key users for a particular team or for a particular department. Okay, so just in case you're not familiar when it comes to, what does a key user means, for me what it means is that we assign one person that represent a specific department or a specific group. For example, since my experience is mostly handling I would say either global or regional team. So what happens is that I will be handling like multiple countries. So what happens is that, for example, for one country, there would be four different departments like finance, supply chain, sales, and such. So what happens is that we always have to assign one person, that 1 to 2 person, so that they can back up each other to represent the department itself. So the thing about it, the good thing about it is that you don't have to deal with so many users asking you for requests. So there's only going to be a representative for that particular team or department. So for me, that is your key users. This is to manage and to be able to it's more on to be able to manage the request and it doesn't overwhelm you. Okay. And also, we do have stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, most of the time, so I'm saying these words because likely I'm going to be mentioning key users and stakeholders in the next slide. Stakeholders for us is going to be either the manager of the key users, or it's going to be the next level or director, or it can be the CFO. So those are our stakeholders. Okay. So when it comes to the requirement analysis and the first few parts of the process, we usually coordinate with the key users. And then we coordinate with the stakeholders at the later part of the process. Okay. So just to identify, differentiate the key users, from the users and from your stakeholders. Okay. So, anyways, going back from to the different types of requests that I received, the first one is going to be creation of new report and dashboard. Okay. What's the difference between a report and a dashboard? Okay. We're trying to differentiate things here. For me, report is the one that you create in Power BI desktop and you publish in your Power BI service or your workspace. Dashboard is the one that you create in your Power BI service on top of the report. So that is the dashboard for me. And another definition of a dashboard for me as well is that if a stakeholder actually requests for, let's say, a presentation that will be only used one time, and then it would include a couple of screenshots from the reports that is already built. So that is a dashboard. It means that I'm preparing a report for the stakeholders that's going to be used one time in PowerPoint. Okay. So though that's the difference between the report, dashboard, and another definition of a dashboard. Okay. So just in case you might get confused, what's the difference between the two? Okay. So that's the first one, creation of a new one. Second one is an enhancement. So when we say enhancement, if you publish a report and then after a couple of weeks, after the user or the key users have been using it, they will ask Jocelyn, oh my God, uh, I forgot to include this part. Or Jocelyn, sorry, the formula is wrong. It should be this formula. Or Jocelyn, oh no, you need to remove this part. It's not needed. So those are part of enhancements, okay? So another type of request that we usually receive from our users as well. Another one, change on report refresh schedule. Okay, so this one might sound, I would say, simple for others, where if you are familiar with Power BI service, you need to set up a schedule for your report to refresh or your data set to refresh. So sometimes the user we will set a schedule for specific data set, let's say on a daily, and then it will be set, let's say 9 a.m. in the morning, and then it will finish to refresh at around 9:10 a.m. Okay. And then they will tell us, oh, Jocelyn, can you change it to 10 a.m.? Because we still doing some stuff with the Excel file that is included in the data set. So it might sound that you, oh, okay, fine, I'm just going to change the schedule. But for us, for me, we do an analysis as well, in a sense that when you refresh a report, you need to assess how many reports are being refreshed at the same time. Okay, because of course in Power BI service as well, if there are a lot of reports refreshed at the same time, it might cause some, it might cause some delay with the other reports as well. So we also need to analyze that part of, that type of request. Okay, so it might sound easy, but it's something that will require some analysis before you even change it. Okay. Next type of request that we receive, change of report owner. Okay. Report owner may not or may be your key user. So it depends on what has been decided during that time. When you say report owner, for me, the definition is that that report owner is the one that can provide access to your reports. Okay. Report owner will be the first level support of the report itself. So they really need to know what the report is, what are the KPIs and such. So any users that will have any questions regarding the report, they will not go through me. They need to go through the report owner. Okay. So if there is a change in the report owner, we need to reassess it again because we need to ensure that the report owner is, trained and knowledgeable with how Power BI works or how the report works. What are the KPIs? How to add in the users. And the adding of users is another topic. For me, I don't do it directly in Power BI service. We leverage in making use of AD group, okay? Active Directory group. So that one is a different topic, but more or less something to know that for me, it's an AD group so that the report owner can just request for the IT team to add in the users in the AD group, and it doesn't have to and it doesn't have to change anything with the report, with the Power BI service as well. Okay. Deleting of existing report, another type of request that we receive. Of course, when it comes to deleting, we need to assess why do you want to delete an existing report. Is it something that is no longer relevant? What will happen to the users that is currently accessing it and such? And then another one that we receive as well is publishing a report. Publishing a report because it depends on the company that you are working for. Sometimes they will allow, self-service. When we say self-service, it means that some of your key users might be creating Power BI reports as well. Okay, so it's not only you or not only me who's creating a Power BI report. Some of the key users might be creating a Power BI report as well. And then rather than them publishing it directly to the workspace, what happens is that we're doing the governance. It means that we're doing a testing, we're doing a checking before we even publish it in the workspace. It's more on managing, those type of requests, ensuring that they don't break anything when they publish it in the workspace. So they will only have access to a test environment, but if they're going to publish it in the production, they need to send a request to us. So these are a couple of type of requests or requirement, okay, that I go through, okay, and then that I manage. So like I said, it's not like, you just create a report and that's it. Okay. So it is something that might differ from, from the request itself. Okay. So those are the things, like I mentioned as well, it doesn't include, new data integration, migration, because most of the time, especially when it comes to data integration or data migration, it will require a different project. Okay, it might involve different teams as well. It depends on the data source, where is it coming from. So that is a total different project altogether. Okay, so those are the different types of requests, sorry, different types of requests that I receive. I'm not sure with everyone, okay, but for me, these are the common things that I manage, okay? So when it comes to requirement analysis, it depends on the type of request, and then that comes in, what type of analysis that you're doing. So for this case, I'm gonna focus more on, a new report. Okay, so let's say a new report comes in. So if there is a new report, what works for me is that the user submits it in a type of format or in a type of portal as well. If you have like a ticketing system, it would be great to actually include it in your ticketing system. So for example, for me, what works is that I did coordinate with our IT team to have it included in ServiceNow. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with ServiceNow. So it's a Microsoft ticketing system. So what they do is that they just submit, a request through there. So they will have like a create do you want to create a new dashboard or a report? Do you want to enhance a report? Do you want to change the schedule and such? So and then what will happen is that there is going to be a ticket that will be sent to me, okay, that will be sent to me indicating that hey, there's a request that came in, okay. So if in case, let me just give you samples of what this request looks like. Let me know if you can see, Temidayo, let me know if you can see the form. I'm sharing the Google form. Can you see?
Yes, I can see your screen. I can see your screen.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
can see
Okay,
the form.
perfect.
But
Okay, so
there's a couple of questions also, but
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
okay. Okay, maybe we try to answer. Okay, let me just finish the form first, and then later on we can go through the question. Okay, so maybe we do
Okay.
one every step, and then I go through the chat, and then we can answer a couple of questions. Okay, so this is
Okay.
just a sample, okay, of a form that you might want to do for your user as well, where they can just submit it. Okay, take note, don't allow all the users to submit this type of request. You only allow your key users because the thing is that, again, you need to have a representative for that department. Because imagine if you have a finance team, for example, for me, previously I was handling like seven countries, I think, seven countries with maximum of four different departments. Okay, okay, almost eight. I think almost eight. Okay, including the zone, zone part of it. Almost eight countries, and then four different departments, and then for each department, likely there's like a minimum of 20 people or more. Okay, so it's gonna be a lot, so I would suggest to always have a key user in place. Okay, so allow only the key users to submit it. So for the key user, they need to have a responsibility to actually gather information from the team. So for example, if let's say I'm a finance person, I'm the team lead. I will be coordinating with my whole team, okay, and then ask them, okay, what do we want Jocelyn to do? What type of report does she need to accomplish or something, okay? So he or she will be the one coordinating with the whole team and then submitting the request, okay? So you would have something like this: requester name, let's say department and such, report name and creation, and then submit, okay? So just a sample, just a quick one, okay? And then next, and then a couple of things that you might want to ask is that, for example, for this report that they want to create, is there already an existing data set that is available or it's not? If there's no data set that is currently available, it means that there is a data integration that needs to happen. Okay, so that is another step. Okay, if they don't know, usually they will ask us as well, hey, Jocelyn, we don't know if it's existing or not. Then you can just put yes for now, and then we can check, if there is an existing data set. Okay, so let's say there is, and then a couple things, list down the likely data set to be used for the report. Let's say if it's service level or sales, then next, and then a couple more things. Okay, I'm not gonna run through each one, but the important part in here is that the business objective. Okay, and the audience as well. Okay, business objective is that what is the purpose of the report. Okay, the thing about it is that you need to identify what they want to achieve for the report, because end of the day, that is the one that you will check if your report was able to answer. Okay, so for me, most of the time I will tell them to have at least maximum of five, minimum of one. Okay, because the thing is that if you have so much business objective, then you would have to split the report, because for me, the less the better. Okay, what I notice is that the more tabs there is in the report other than the performance, usually the user doesn't go through all the tabs. Okay, so for me, the less tabs there is, the better for the user to focus on what is the objective of the report. Okay, so those are the things. And another thing that you might want the user to add in is going to be some KPIs and then report mock-up. Okay, so this one is just a sample. So you need to have the KPI list, okay, and then a report mockup as well. So if they do have a report that they're already using, for example, most of the things that I work on whenever I start with a company is usually they would want to migrate like Excel reports to Power BI reports. So likely they would already have like a report in Excel format. So that would be the report markup. Or what they would do is that they're gonna share to me the Excel file and then of the report, and then they would create a report mock-up that is, oh, I want to add this, I want to change this, something like that. Okay. But this one report mock-up is something that they want. It doesn't mean that you would have to follow. Okay. Because the thing is that you are more familiar with the tool Power BI. You know what Power BI can do for them. So your user is limited with the knowledge on, Excel. So they're not even familiar with, oh, you can create a filters, oh, you can create this type of charts. So it's your responsibility to add in more insights, to add in more ideas when it comes to the report. Okay. So that is an example of how you gather, information or requirement from the user. So you can leverage in making use of an Excel. For me, Excel works when it comes to this because they're more familiar with Excel. So it's easier for them to fill in. And then for the requirement survey, like I said, if your company do have a couple of tools that you can use, like ticketing system, then it's better to leverage on that so that it can automate the process for you. Okay. So anyways, let's take a look at a couple of questions that you do have. Okay, hold on. How do you estimate the number of days required to the development of the dashboard? Later on, we're going to go through, you know, how we estimate. So if you're familiar with Scrum, okay, so that's where, the estimation happens, okay? How do you conclude the complexity of the dashboard? It depends on the skills of your team. So for example, for me, if I'm more familiar with the system already, or I would say with the company itself, then likely for me, some complexity, some things might be easier for me, but for someone, let's say I have another team that is working along with me, but he's quite new or she's quite new, then the complexity for him or her is going to be different. It's more complex to him or her. It depends on the skills of each one. Okay. Generally, do you have to be a DAX power user to be able to create interesting analysis stories? Okay. You don't. Okay. One thing is that when we say power user, it's more like, are you an expert? I'm assuming Joseph. You're assuming. I'm assuming that's what you mean. So, are you supposed to be, really good at DAX? I'm not. True story, I'm not. I Google things, okay? I Google things, okay? So for me, it's more on familiarity on what is commonly used, okay? So I would suggest to learn those things. There is this really good not really, I'm not sure if it's a most common, that was shared by Leon Gordon in LinkedIn, so I might share that one. He listed out a couple of functions that you might want to learn when it comes to DAX. So for me, you don't have to know everything, because for me, I don't think I know 50% of it. Okay, so I only use those things that I'm comfortable with, and I would say works for me. It depends on the requirement as well. So I don't think you really need to be a really good, DAX power user to be able to, to create interesting analysis. But the thing that I would suggest is to learn how to drive insights and to always check with the user if they are actually making use of the dashboard that report that you've created for them. Is it something that is relevant for them? Okay, next one. Where do you get such a beautiful design ideas? Okay. I do use a couple, okay, design ideas when it comes to dashboards and reports. I I usually got it from websites, to be quite more on the website designs, and sometimes from books and magazines as well. One favorite website of mine is Dribble, so you might want to check Dribble. I use Pinterest as well, so you can check Pinterest. Okay. And that's what I was asking. Okay, perfect, Joseph. No, you don't. I Google things. Okay, so for me, it's quite I'm a big fan of Google. So I do Google things. So if there is some complex calculations that I need to think of, I try my best to Google it. And then one more thing is that if the DAX for me, if the DAX code is getting longer, I would have to review it again and then see, okay, this is getting long. So it's too much. Then I would have to review how can I come up with that formula, or how can I come up with that, logic. Okay. So Tanusri, I'm gonna put all the websites and that I would recommend, and then later on. Okay. So let's proceed with the next one. Oh my god, it's already 1:30. Hold on. I need to make this fast. Okay, wait. Let me just, I think we need like how many days of this? But I'm gonna try to make it, quick. Promise. Okay, hold on. Let's do the next part, which is, come on. Okay.
All right, take
User
your time.
workshop.
Take your time.
Okay. I think hopefully everyone is still free. Okay. User workshops and meeting. Okay. After you did your requirement analysis, so you are after not really done the requirement analysis, after your user already filled in the forms, submitted it to you, of course you would have to analyze it. Okay. So when I say analyze it, check out all the data. Is it available? Are the KPIs clear? Is the formula that they indicated is clear? Do you have any questions regarding the report itself? Were you able to, do analysis on the report markup as well? And then for me, to be honest, usually I already have understanding on what the report design is gonna be. Okay, after my requirement, after I received the form, after I did my analysis as well. So usually I would take like a day. It depends on how complex the report is going to be. I would usually allot like 1 day, maximum of 2 days, to analyze the request. If in case the data is going to be too complex, there's, different data set that will be involved in the report itself. So more or less, I would spend 1 to 2 days in analyzing the request before I set up a user workshop. Okay, so what is a user workshop? A user workshop for me is having a discussion with the key user who submitted the request, and then confirming your understanding of the requirement. Okay. So in here, one key thing is only invite key users. Okay. The fewer the people involved, the better. The reason behind is that what I realized way back, okay, is that if there's more people involved in the workshop, what happens is that their ideas usually clash. Okay? And most of the time they will argue during the workshop, and then it takes longer. Okay, so ensure that you only have the key users, and then ensure that the key users know that, hey, you need to make sure that this is the requirement that your team needs. Okay, to avoid going back and forth. Okay, for the workshop, so when I say workshop, this is the first meeting that you would have with them when it comes to the requirements. So keep it to maximum 3 hours. Okay, you might wonder, oh my god, 3 hours is long, but the key here is that you are trying to ensure that you covered as much information as you can when it comes to the report. Okay, so this one is what I would say crucial when it comes to delivering the report. Okay, so for me, but to be honest, usually my workshop will last 1 to 2 hours. Okay, so this is to ensure that you gather all the information, and likely there would be more questions during the workshop. Okay, so you would have to keep everything documented. Okay, keep everything documented, list down all the questions that you have, and then of course do minutes of the meeting, whatever works for you, and then have it sent to them, and then have them get back to you. Okay, so at least for me, 80% should be confirmed before any work is done. Okay, to be honest, the reason why I said 80% is that if you are working in an agile environment, it doesn't have to be the whole thing is, confirmed. So for me, 80% works. Sometimes I do 70, 16 might be. So it depends on, priorities as well. So you would have to decide what works for you and then how big the report is going to be. Okay. So in here, if in case there are things that needs clarification, most of the time it will also involve some confirmation that is needed to be escalated to your stakeholders, that needs to be confirmed with the stakeholders. Allow your key users time to coordinate with the team, with his or her team, or the stakeholders, to discuss, okay, this is what we want to do, Jocelyn, regarding this part. This is what how we want it to be. We want to add this, we want to remove this. So give them time to get back to you. But for me, I would suggest give them at least 1 week, not more, because the thing is that once they started, lagging when it comes to getting back to you, likely you're gonna forget about this request, or there are gonna be another request that's gonna come up. Okay, so ensure that they get back to you as soon as possible. So I indicated meetings because likely you would have multiple meetings with the key users regarding this request. If you can, if they can get back to you through chat or through email, that would be good as well. But keep everything documented. So for example, the Excel that I showed you, you can keep that Excel file, include another tab for the question and answer, so that at least you will only have one document to keep, and then one document that you can share with the key users. But take note, when you share it with the key users, ensure that they cannot edit it, okay? So that you're the only one who is allowed to edit it, so that if in case there's any changes, you won't get surprised that they did a change. So it's more on for them to read through and then get back to you. Okay. So that is my tip when it comes to user workshops and meetings. So this is the next step that you do when it comes to requirement. Okay. So let's go back just in case if there's any question. Okay, don't be hurried. We are okay to spend more. Thank you. How do you document the Power BI dashboard, which is good? Later on, we're gonna proceed. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Main, we're gonna do another, there is gonna be a part when it comes to documentation. So I'm gonna run through the documentation part as well when it comes to, Power BI dashboards and reports. So it's part of the process as well. Okay. So going back, okay. So the next step is once you have confirmed all the requirements, you know what are you gonna build. It's now it's time for you to do report development. Okay. So this one, it depends if you're the only one that is, the BI analyst, or you have a team that is working, like another BI analyst as well. So it depends who's gonna work on this requirement. A couple of things that I do want you to keep in mind based on my experience. Okay. So I'm not gonna include like any design tips in here. Okay. So that one is another whole whole session, to be honest. So not involving design or anything. It's more on the how you manage report development. Okay. So the first one is, now that you have confirmed the requirement, see if there is any similar report that is already existing. Okay. So for me, since like I mentioned, I am from my past experience, I've been handling multiple countries and departments, and the department is similar from one another. If a report is already existing for one country, let's say Singapore already requested a sales dashboard, and now another country, let's say Philippines, is requesting for sales report as well. The first thing that I always do is that instead of creating a different report for Philippines, I will present the same report from Singapore. This is what you call standardizing. Okay, you're standardizing the reports across all. One more thing that you would have to do is that, of course, you would have to coordinate, with the higher management as well, that, oh, we're building a sales report. We want to standardize it across all countries. Okay. So it depends on the requirement as well, whether it's okay for them to continue with standardizing, or they don't like standardizing, then you proceed with, creating a new report. Okay. But always take into consideration of, rather than creating, replicating a similar report. Okay. or review for possible enhancement. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is always consider reusing. Okay, reusing the existing data set for the reports. Okay, so if you're someone familiar with publishing reports in Power BI service, you do know that it's gonna create a data set in Power BI service. So let's say you have a report. Let's say your sales department is requesting another sales report, and then this one is a different version. Let's say this one is going to be it's going to be more detailed, there's going to be more information inside, but you already have an existing data set that is currently being used by another report. Okay, so don't publish that new report and then it will create another data set, but rather create that report and then have it pointed to that data set. Okay, and then just ensuring that you inform the user that, okay, we use this data set, and then the timing is going to be, the refresh timing is going to be this time. Okay, so the thing about it is that you are avoiding recreating a data set that is the same as the other data set. So it will be more organized, and then performance wise you don't have to refresh multiple data set as well. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay. So always think about these things. Okay. So like I said, it's not about design. Okay. Not design, but more on this type of concepts. Okay. So next one is ensure security of data. Okay. So when you do report development, always think of who is going to be the audience, who will have access to it. Okay. So ensure you have security of those data. You ensure that you only have specific people that is having the access to that data. So if you have to create role level security, then you have to create role level security. Okay. And then for me, I start with a wireframe and present to the key user. So this one, to be honest, I don't usually do wireframes for all the reports that I do. I only do report wireframes for those report that is gonna be, quite complex or quite big or something new. But for some reports that I would say that I've already done before, or something that I would say more or less based on an already existing report, then I don't do wireframe. So wireframe is just designing what the report is gonna look like. It's like a report mockup as well. Okay, and then better to present this to the user first, so that at least before you even build more complex, DAX calculations and everything, at least they have an idea how the report is gonna look like. But again, this one is optional. But for me, it really helps when it comes to avoiding redoing things when it comes to report building. Okay, less is more. Okay, what do I mean by less is more? Most of the time, I limit the number of tabs for a report maximum to 5. The reason behind is that what I notice for the users as well is that if they are looking at specific goal or specific questions, or if that specific question, sorry, specific answers to a specific question, if it takes them 5 tabs to get the answer, then it's not good. Okay, especially also if it's more than 5 tabs, what I feel is that the performance is also going to be a problem as well. And then if the performance, if it's slowing down, the problem is the users will no longer use the report as well, because they would feel that, oh, Jocelyn, it's taking too long. Whenever I filter, it's taking too long to refresh. Whenever I do this, it's taking too long. So for me, is less is more. That's why for me, business objective is important, so that at least you know what are the things that this report should be accomplishing for the user. Okay. Standard naming. Okay. So when I say standard naming, this one is specific for your team as well. So for, like I said, for me, what happens is that since it's multiple countries, multiple divisions, it's better to have a standard naming when it comes to report. So for example, what you can do is the first part is going to be, let's say, country. The second part is the department, and then the report name. So for example, we can say SG space sales space monitoring report, something like that. Okay, so create like a standard naming that your team is going to be familiar with, okay? And then your users is going to be familiar with, okay? Measures as well, if you can have a standard naming, is especially if you are a team of developers, this would be better so that at least you get you don't have to, if you're gonna enhance a report that was created by your teammate, it's gonna be easier for you to understand what the measure name is. So for example, let's say total sales amount, YOY, something like that, or total sales amount, MOM. Okay, so something like that. So um this one, it depends on your team how you want to standardize, but I would suggest create a standard so that at least if one is enhancing a report created by another, or if one is reviewing a report of another, it's easier for you to get a hang of it. Okay, always create a tab for information. What is information? Information is like a list of, what the report, what information is, of that report. So it's something like, hopefully you can see this. So this is one of the reports I've created. So it's something like, let me just see. There you go. So something like this. So if you, hold on, let me see if I can have it zoom in a bit. So as you can see here, information, it's something more on, so that your user, if someone wants to access this report, it's going to be easier for them to identify what the report is. So you would have, for example, for this one is here on your growth. So something like this will be helpful for your user, and not only your user, for your teammate as well, if they will be the one enhancing the report. So always create something like this. The thing that I'm missing in here is the KPI list. So if I can, I will include a KPI list as well. So that would include all the formulas and everything. So you can include that as well. So something like this is better so that your user or anyone that is viewing this report can easily, navigate and then view what the report is. Okay. And then, oops, hold on. Okay. And then what else? Okay, performance. Okay, you always have to consider performance of the report. When I say performance, you try to refresh the report, how long it takes for the report to refresh. Because for me, if it takes more than 15 minutes, then there's something wrong. Okay, so you would have to check what might be causing it. Always, if you are making use of MDX query, for example, for me, we do create like a query if the data source is from SQL, we create MDX query. So if it takes too long, so we might take a look on what might be causing it. We might do some changes, or we might need to create a view table for it. So something like that. Okay. So those are the things that I would suggest when it comes to report development. Okay. So let me know if you have any question. Okay. Can we possibly get the slide deck after the session? I will think about it, Joe. No. Yes, I'm gonna share the deck for sure. How do you create wireframe? Any tool. Okay, for the wireframe, currently I'm learning how to use Figma, but what I usually do is actually write it down on a piece of paper. Actually write it down in a piece of paper and then screenshot the thing. Okay. But but the thing is that it's good to actually make use of like Figma or PowerPoint. Okay. Stunning looking report. Thank you, Joseph. Okay, so yep. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. Okay, so after you created the report, okay, after you created the report, the next thing is unit testing. Okay, so unit testing is done by the report, whoever created the report. I do this just to ensure that I didn't miss out anything when it comes to the report. Okay, so for me, the usual things I check when it comes to unit testing is that the first one is, did it answer the objective? Okay, so you have to go back, okay, to the objective, to the form, that you've asked your user to fill in. Did it answer the objective or objectives? Okay. Second is that you need to check your KPI, the formula, the values. Okay. So one thing that I want to do to tell you as well is that For me, I would suggest, if possible, is to have a workspace specific for testing. Okay, so from my previous companies that I've been to, we do have like a workspace specific for testing. So we publish all the reports that is ready for testing on that workspace so that we can test in Power BI service. Okay, so if you can, that would be better so that you can test it in there. And then your user can test it from there as well later on for UAT. Okay, so test out your KPI, your formula, and the values. Test out the buttons, navigation, and interaction. Okay, so this is something that most people miss, I think. And sometimes, when you filter as well, test out if the filters are working. Is it actually filtering the correct charts or what? So those are the things that you need to check as well. Tool tips, okay? This one, sometimes we forget to change tooltips, okay? So please ensure that you check tooltips because you do want to ensure that the tooltips is nice. So for example, just to give you example on tooltips as well, something, okay, let me go back in here. So let's say, let me see, I think forecast, let's do forecast. Okay. Let's do forecast if it allows me to, okay? Oh, there you go. Okay, so for example, for tooltips, for example, in here, if I hover here, so something like that would be nice. So if you have such thing, it would be better. So this actually includes, I would say, some wow factor for the user as well, and something that would be, nice to use. Okay, so do check a couple of those things. So if you want to create something that is no, something that your user would want to go back to as well. Okay, so tool tips and then access check. Okay, please ensure that you do. Oh, sorry, hold on. Access check. Okay, and then for the access check, this might involve different roles. May it be manager. If you're a manager, what would be the things that you're able to access, or to not access to, you're able to view in the report. Or let's say if you're the supply chain, let's say supply chain assistant or something, then it might be that you have access for all or something. So it depends. So do ensure that you have the roles implemented properly. And then next one is flow check. What do I mean by flow check? Okay, so for me, when it comes to designing as well, I do want to have some type of flow when it comes to the report. What I mean is that if you wanted to achieve a certain objective, it goes from one step to, one step, second step, third step, if there's need. So for example, let's say in here, let's look at the forecast. If you look in this report, let's say the first chart that you will be able to find is comparison. You're comparing production forecast and sales forecast. So it's more comparison of the three. And then if you go to the right, it's forecast accuracy comparison for the three again. But you go down one level, okay? So in here, it's more on focusing on the production forecast and then focusing on the sales forecast. So there's a flow that the top level of your report is mostly comparison of the three, and then the last two charts on below is going to be specific on one item from above. So for example, in here it's going to be the production, which is the line in blue, and then that one production forecast, you're comparing from last year, this year versus last year. And then this one is sales forecast this year versus last year. Okay, so something like that. So that is the flow that I would prefer to look when it comes to a report. Okay, so I don't just mix and match, charts. As much as possible, there's going to be like some type of flow from, comparing three and then just comparing the two items specific to the production forecast, something like that. Okay. Going back, okay, performance and refresh check. I think this one, you would know it's more on once you publish it in Power BI service, test out the refresh, see how long it takes. If it takes longer for me, if it takes 10 minutes, I might have to reconsider it. check it again. But it depends, to be honest, on how big the data is. So it would have to depend on how you look at the report. But most of the reports that we do have is, or that I've worked with, is, I think the longest one is gonna be around 15 minutes, but that one is more on detailed level, and then we try to refresh it after office hours. Okay, so that's your unit testing. Okay, let me just present this one again. Oh, hold on. Let me just take a look if you have any questions. Okay, no questions. Okay, good. Okay, so unit testing, and then after unit testing, report review. Okay, report review, it depends on you how big your team is. If you do have someone to work with, for example, for me, from my previous work, is that there's two of us that is working on, Power BI reports as well. So what we do is that he check my report, I check his report. So this one will involve just rechecking the whole thing that you did on your unit testing. So just ensuring that the report is good. So it's more on peer-to-peer code check. um what happens is that we do this just to ensure that you don't miss out anything, because for me, I miss out things. So I would want someone to take a look at my report. Okay, and also it also provide a sense of brainstorming for you and your teammates as well, just in case. Oh, you can say that, oh, maybe try this. In For example, if the other person is more familiar with that, might be able to suggest, oh, maybe you create this, or you can suggest other things as well. So this one is something I would say optional, but for me is something necessary. Because for me, we get to learn things when we do review of one another. Okay, so if you can, it's the same process, it's the same usual things to check. It's just that another person is checking it for you. It's like a code review. If you're familiar with any C sharp or Java, I think they do have like code review as well, and then it needs to be approved by two persons, something like that. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so that's code. Oops, sorry, code review or report review. So let's say everything is good. You are able to finish the whole report. The next thing is gonna be your user demo and UAT. So user demo is something where after you finish the report, you're gonna do a demo to the user about the report itself. Okay. So in here, I would suggest you invite the stakeholders. Okay, just to ensure that your key users was able to capture also things that your stakeholder is requesting. So if you can, do invite the stakeholders. Keep it to 1 hour, because of course we're assuming your stakeholders, for example, for some of my finance report, the stakeholders is CFO. So I would suggest to keep it to maximum 1 hour, unless there are more questions during the call, during the meeting, then you would have to extend. So take note of any questions and changes. Okay, and one more thing, during the user demo, definitely there's gonna be changes. Okay, so 100% I'm sure. Okay, there's always going to be some changes you during the user demo, so always take into consideration that part as well, that um if there are any changes, do it as soon as possible. Okay, so that's my suggestion to you. During the user demo, what I do is that it's either the same day I'm gonna change everything, and then I'm no longer gonna do another user demo unless the change is quite big. If it's not quite big, I will proceed to publishing the report in the test environment so that the user can already start testing it. Okay, so publish it in test environment. If you do have test environment, give them ample time to test it out. But as much as possible, for me, what works is that I give them 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks to test. The reason behind 2 weeks is that, take note, your key user is not just doing reports. Okay, so they do have things, that they are doing. So as much as possible, give them ample time to do the testing. And also it depends on how big the report is. So for me, I usually follow up after 1 week, and then I follow up again on the second week. Okay. So, and then after that, you fix and adjust every time they have something. So do have an Excel file to keep all the test cases, all the things are the KPIs passed, something like that. Okay. So those are the things that I would suggest when it comes to user demo and UAT. And also when it comes to UAT as well, I would suggest, like I said, don't allow so many people testing the report, because again, you're inviting different perspective on how the report is going to work. Okay, so only invite the key users to do the UAT, and then if possible, if the stakeholders can do the testing as well, that would be great if they can review it as well, so that at least that one of the main person that will have access to that report will have another idea on how the report is going to look like. Okay, so that's your user demo and UAT. Okay, let me see. Joseph, this all makes sense and is very helpful and thorough template to follow. So much practice. Okay, thank you. That's good. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. So like I said, this process is not going to involve designing. Okay, not designing. Okay, next one. So let's say it already passed. Okay, your key user said, yes, Jocelyn, this is good. I want to have it in production. Okay, so if your user said that, then you're good to go. Okay, but before you publish it, ensure that you do report documentation. I am still figuring this out. I'm gonna be honest, this is the hardest part of this whole process. Okay, this documentation. Okay, it, it's difficult to admit, but but yes, I'm still trying to figure it out, because the way I document things is not the best way. um I was able to document things in using Confluence before, and then using Excel. Okay, so for me, what works previously is more on the Excel. So the same Excel file that I keep from requirement analysis until UAT is the same documentation that I keep until I publish the report. Okay, but I would say this is not the best way. Okay, because for me, Power BI do have, like, Power BI, the versioning, you want to keep the versioning as well. It's so hard to track in an Excel format. So for me, this is something that I'm still exploring. If I do find something that is quite interesting, I am studying something. Okay, so do follow me on LinkedIn. I am trying to learn something regarding documentation with Power BI. So hopefully that works, because I do want to apply it first before I share it. So let's see if that works. But for now, what I would suggest is just to get to ensure that you have a documentation, keep it in Excel. If you have Confluence, that would be great. Keep things in Confluence as well, so that everyone would have access to it. And also all the Excel files that I have, the requirement gathering, documentation until now is something that is going to be in your team. So it's going to be shared to your team as well. So ensure that you have it in SharePoint or Teams, and then accessible by everyone. Okay. And then should include data models. So for me, it's something that I want to make sure that we keep track, because sometimes all of a sudden the data model changed and we don't know who changed the data model. So I would suggest keep a screenshot of the data model and then put it in the Excel file. You should include versioning as well. So indicate when did you enhance the report, and then who enhanced the report as well. So should include information on who created the report, who conducted the UAT, who are the initial viewers, and who are the stakeholders. Okay, I would suggest these are the things that something that you would want to include in the report. Okay, and one more thing is that you should have like something like a report repository. So what is a report repository? This is actually an idea of my previous boss, my awesome previous boss. She actually came up with the idea of creating a report repository. It's just a Power BI report as well, where it listed out all the reports that we've published, who is the report owner, and then what the report is about. Okay, and then if the user wants to have access to that report, they just click the report, and then it will send an email to the report owner, you asking for a report access. Because the good thing about it is that because of that report repository, we actually ask our users first, our key users first, hey, before you even submit any request, please look at the report repository. Is that request already existing? So that your request will be, rather than creating a new request, a new report, it's going to be replicating a report. Okay, so we do have such things. So what happens is that the user will take a look. Oh, Jocelyn, this report is existing in the Philippines. I do want this report to be replicated for our country. Can we have it done? So something like that. Okay. So do think about creating a report repository for your company as well, or for your work as well. Okay. So like I said, still figuring it out. So if something came up, if I'm able to figure out how to really manage report documentation, I'll let you know. Okay. So the last one is gonna be publishing and monitoring. Okay, so publishing means your user already confirmed that, hey, Jocelyn, this one is ready, all good. Can we have it published in the production? Okay. So things to keep in mind is that inform your key users ahead of time of the go live date. Okay, don't just oh, you want to publish it? Okay, I'm gonna publish it today. No. Okay, so for me, what I usually do is I'm gonna ask them, okay, who would be the initial user list, and then I'm gonna send an email to everyone to announce that there is a new report that will be available on a specific day and time. Okay, so this one is just announcing that, hey, we got a new report. Okay, something like that. Okay, so setup, of course, when you publish, make sure you set up the refresh timing, add in key user for the refresh error alert. Okay, so one thing that for me is essential is that the report owner should be alerted if there's any problem with the report. Okay, so and then they will seek assistance for us as well. Okay, so if in case, ensure, because you do want your report owner to be informed that, oh, okay, there's a report error, and then he or she can send an email to his or her team indicating that, oh guys, hold on, there is a problem with the refresh, the report is not updated, we'll get back to you, Jocelyn is working on it. Okay, so better to always include the key user and the report owner. I forgot to include it here, key user and the report owner, to the refresh error alert. Okay, and then of course update the report repository, okay, with a new report. And then for me, as much as possible, we monitor it in the next 2 weeks. Okay, because we do want to ensure that the report is being used, and we want to ensure that there's no problem with the refresh, because you don't know, even though you refresh it one time, you never know whether it's going to break or what. Okay, so ensure that you monitor it first in the next 2 weeks, and then ask feedback as well, if possible. Ask feedback from your key user. Hey, is everything good? Is there anything that is missing, or should we fix or something? So it's better to actually monitor it in the next 2 weeks, and then conduct a report review every quarter as well. Okay, so ensure that you do a quarterly review, because for me, this is essential to ensure that whether is the report being used, or is it something that no one's actually viewing it. So what's the purpose of this report? Something like that. So always conduct a report review with the users, with the report that you have, just to make sure that the reports are being used. Or you can also monitor it yourself, and then ensure that, okay, you send an email to the users indicating, hey, we've been seeing that this report is not being used. Is it still relevant? Are we supposed to delete it, or something like that? Okay, and then that's it. Okay, so that's the whole process. But okay, I do want to include, let me just check if you have any other questions. Okay, no questions. Okay, so this one, I'm not sure if I should include. If in case you're asking, how can you assess the complexity and such, there is this process that I would say that it's like on top of this one, okay? On top of this process, which is Scrum, okay? So when it comes to Scrum, okay, what we do is that, okay, so this one is my old template, okay? So I haven't fixed this one. Okay, so this is my old template. So what happens is that whenever we receive a request, it goes to a demand backlog. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Scrum, I would suggest check it out, see if it's gonna work with your team. Okay, so it's gonna be listed in the demand backlog. So we do have like a demand list. So these are all the requests of the users, and then what will happen is that there's gonna be like a sprint planning at the start of the week, and then we're gonna decide which are the things that we're gonna take. Okay, so it's gonna go through a sprint backlog. Okay, so what happens is that we allot like a maximum of 2 weeks for us to work on those items. So we do a daily stand up and such. And then after that, we do deployment to UAT. Okay, so the whole Scrum itself is that we consider it as complete, I would say, once we deliver it for UAT. Okay, so during the sprint planning, this is where we actually brainstorm what's the complexity of the report. Okay, so we decide whether it's how complex it's going to be, not sprint planning, sorry, sprint refinement. Okay, so during the refinement part, we actually discuss how complex the report is going to be, and then we assess, we assess whether, hey, are we going to split it, or is it going to be one time and then 2 weeks or another 2 weeks just to do the part two. Okay, so this is just a sample of something that might work for you as well. Okay, and then we do have something like this. So I did change all the stuff. So this one is the old template, so please disregard the colorful nonsense color because I'm trying to make this as fast as I can. Okay, so this one is something that the users can view so that they know where their demand is. Okay, so it will indicate their request, is it part of this sprint or is it going to be part of the next sprint. Okay, so this is something that you might want to look at as well to see if it's going to work for you. Okay, so it's just a list of all the demands so that at least the users can be informed that, hey, where's my request, what's happening to my request. So it's more on request management part, which is again part of BI analyst as well. Okay, so I think that is all. I think I overrun a bit. I'm so sorry. Okay, because it's quite a long. I would say it's quite a big topic. I would say it's a bit difficult to,
Awesome.
yeah, a bit difficult to concise it in 1 hour. But I hope you learned something from it as well. Okay, so let's just see if there's any more question. Let me stop presenting as well. Okay, let me see if there's any question.
Okay. An awesome session, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. So let's see. How do you track, monitor, report usage metrics? Just conversation with users. Okay, so for Power BI service, there is this. You can actually check. You can download the information for each report. It is quite tedious, I would say, if you're gonna do it for all reports. But more or less, if it's gonna be just one report that you're trying to get, so you can check the views. So, from that report, and it's like I can't remember what the name is. It's like a report analytics of views, something like that. So you would be able to see how many views for the past few days. So this is the thing that we actually present to the users as well, and that it is something that you would have to assess as well, and then you can have a discussion with the user. But the thing is that it is essential to actually have a discussion with the user, especially if you can see down views for the past few days. Yes. Okay, next question. Okay. Nice idea to have a demand. It's useful. I would say if you are someone that is working on so many requests, I would definitely suggest like a demand report so that the user can actually view where you are at so they don't have to call you every single time asking, hey, what's the status of the request? Something like that. Okay. Thank you as well. Any advice on job opportunities? Oh my God. Okay, that is a bit tough. Okay. Okay, so if you are starting as if you are someone starting as a data analyst without any experience, I would suggest to go through. I think Temadayo, you can share the you can share the link for the Excel one. I did have a session about being a data analyst, so you might want to take a look at that one. Yeah. Okay. Awesome presentation. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Okay. Anything else? No more question? Okay, hold on. Your way of understanding. So is thank you. Also, I want to ask, where did you get all this design slide? Okay, the slide itself, I created it in Canva. So if you are pro license in Canva, you can definitely create such, slide as well. Okay. Any more questions? All good. Hopefully you learn a thing or two. Thank you for attending. Really appreciate it. And I'm so sorry for the 15 minutes, overrun. Okay.
Awesome, 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 awesome,
Okay.
awesome. Okay, I see. I see everyone is. Oh yeah, saying thank you. So, our last question is, how you started your own data journey, and also what advice you have for people just starting out in the field of data analysis?
Sorry again. Can you repeat that to
Yes,
me?
so our last question would be, okay, what advice do you have for people just starting out in the field of data?
Oh, okay. So for those starting in data analyst role, what I would suggest is to learn a couple of tools that is essential for a data analyst or a business intelligence analyst. That would be at least advanced Excel, SQL definitely, and then any visualization tool. Of course, we're doing Power BI. I would suggest to do Power BI. So learn those three tools, and then when it comes to skills, I would suggest to try to practice when it comes to communication, presentation, because likely you will be presenting to a couple of stakeholders, and you know um half of your time is going to be in between developing, in between data, data cleaning, data transformation, and then half of the time it's going to be coordinating with the users. And always take into consideration as well that your key users are your partners. You don't have to know the business, because I feel like most that ask me how to break into data analyst, they always think that, oh, I need to learn sales, I need to learn finance. For me, you don't really have to learn it, because the thing for me is that whenever I join in a company, I'm not really familiar with their business model, their business itself. I get to learn and I get to learn it along the way. But the thing is that you need to have a really good relationship with your users, because they are the business. So you need to learn things from them so that you both can deliver an awesome dashboard or report. Okay? So that is my tip.
Awesome, 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 awesome. So I'll
Okay.
say thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
as well. And thank you everyone.
So
Really
everyone,
appreciate
you can
it.
also connect with just Josephine. Okay, let us
Okay?
say something. Sorry.
No worries. And then if you want, I do post things on LinkedIn as well. So definitely you can follow me on LinkedIn if you want. And then unfortunately I don't have a YouTube channel, because people are asking if I have YouTube channel. I don't have Temedayo and the team do have YouTube channel. So if you want to watch this session, you can go to their channel and then watch it. Okay? Thank you
Oh,
everyone.
thank you,
Take
thank you.
care.
So bye, guys. Bye, and have a lovely week ahead.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.